20 years after his exploits in Afghanistan, John Rambo has completely withdrawn from the world. He lives a simple, solitary life on the banks of the Salween River near the Thailand-Burma border, earning a meager living by catching deadly cobras and ferrying cargo on his longboat. He wears his cynicism like armor, keeping his eyes downcast as the nearby nation of Burma burns under the horrific, genocidal reign of the Tatmadaw military junta. Rambo is a ghost of a man, dead inside, wishing only to be left alone by a world he believes will never change. When a group of idealistic Christian missionaries from Colorado approaches him to ferry them upriver into a conflict zone to provide medical aid, Rambo's immediate response is cold rejection. He tells them flatly that they cannot change anything with Bibles and medicine. The dynamic changes entirely because of Sarah Miller, one of the missionaries. While her companions see Rambo as nothing more than a sullen, dangerous boatman, Sarah looks deeper. She confronts him privately in the pouring rain, pleading not just for their safety, but for his humanity. She asks him if he really believes that saving a human life is completely meaningless. For the first time in decades, a crack appears in Rambo's hardened exterior. Sarah's fierce, unyielding idealism awakens a dormant spark inside him. Reluctantly, silently, he agrees to take them up the river. He steps back into the world, entirely unaware that this act of mercy will violently derail his fragile peace. The journey turns nightmarish when a gang of heavily armed Burmese river pirates intercepts Rambo's boat. The pirates demand all their supplies and, more terrifyingly, insist on taking Sarah. The missionaries try to negotiate using prayer and reason, but the pirates mock them, raising their weapons to kill the men and assault Sarah. In a split second, the world slows down for John Rambo. The peaceful boatman vanishes, and the lethal, instinctive killer returns. In a blur of motion, Rambo draws a hidden pistol, executing all 5 pirates with terrifying, mechanical precision. The entire boat is left painted in blood. The missionaries are safe, but they look at Rambo not with gratitude but with absolute horror. Disgusted by their judgment, Rambo drops them at their destination and leaves them behind. As Rambo journeys back downriver alone in the pitch black, the narrative plunges into his haunted psyche. A chaotic, dreamlike montage of his past flashes before him, the torture in Vietnam, the voice of his late mentor Colonel Troutman telling him that war is in his blood, and the brutal reality of the men he just killed. He realizes he can no longer run from what he is. Returning to his compound under a torrential storm, Rambo stands over a roaring forge. In a powerful passage of time sequence, he manually hammers and shapes a heavy, brutal custom machete. As he quenches the red-hot steel in cold water, the violent hiss of steam symbolizes the final hardening of his resolve. When a frantic pastor arrives the next morning to tell him the missionaries have been captured by the military junta, Rambo doesn't hesitate. The broken guide is dead, the legendary warrior is back. Rambo ferries a group of cynical, hard-nosed mercenaries hired by the church to rescue the captives. The mercenaries treat Rambo with open disdain, viewing him as an old, useless boatman. When they arrive at the ruins of a massacred Karen village, they discover the Tatmadaw soldiers forcing surviving villagers to play a sick game of human landmine roulette in the mud. The mercenaries hesitate, terrified of giving away their position. But Rambo doesn't wait for a plan. He stalks into the tall grass with his compound bow. With silent, lethal grace, he fires arrow after arrow, impaling the soldiers before they can raise the alarm. The mercenaries watch in sheer awe as this quiet old man effortlessly dismantles an entire squad, realizing too late that they are in the presence of an absolute apex predator. The stealth mission inevitably unravels into total chaos. The mercenaries manage to extract the missionaries under the cover of darkness, but as dawn breaks, the massive Tatmadaw army corners them. Bound and bloodied, the mercenaries and missionaries are forced to their knees in a muddy clearing, facing a firing squad. Major Tint, the sadistic commander, stands ready to watch the slaughter. In the distance sits a heavy. Suddenly, out of the jungle mist, Rambo materializes like a ghost on the back of the truck. In one lightning-fast motion, he slits the throat of the guard and takes control of the weapon. With a primal, roaring release of 20 years of pent-up rage, Rambo pulls the trigger. The .50 caliber machine gun erupts with a deafening, terrifying power of the weapon turns the executioners into dust, tearing through the military camp in a storm of absolute devastation. Spurred to life by Rambo's assault, the mercenaries scramble for dropped weapons and fight back with vengeance. Snipers pick off drivers, fuel barrels detonate into massive fireballs, and the jungle itself seems to tear apart under the weight of the crossfire. The apocalyptic battle spills out of the camp and down into the tall, muddy reeds of the riverbank as Karen rebels arrive to join the fight. Seeing his army completely decimated, Major Tint attempts to flee through the tall grass. Rambo pursues the dictator on foot. Rambo intercepts Tint. With grim, silent finality, Rambo slashes open the tyrant with his homemade machete, ending the dictator's reign of terror right there in the mud. As the smoke clears, a blood-soaked, exhausted Rambo stands on the hillside, looking down at Sarah and the survivors. He has completely emptied his soul onto the battlefield to save them. Walking down a dusty, winding country road in Arizona, John Rambo finally walks up to his father's ranch. He has been gone for decades, wandering the world in exile and blood. By embracing his nature to save others, he has finally found his peace.